Action hello, everyone. Tonight, we are visiting a studio perched at the edge of a cliff where time feels as soft and heavy as fog rolling in from the sea. The walls are cracked, the windows are speckled with salt, and inside, an old artist paints alone. Except you're here now, aren't you? The ocean below hisses like a tired whisper, brushing against the rocks as if it knows a secret it's not ready to tell. Inside, you take a slow breath. There's the scent of turpentine and old books, and something sweet but long forgotten, like childhood glue or the crust of a peach cobbler. You're here to help, though you're not sure what that means. The artist hasn't spoken yet. He just nodded once when you arrived and handed you a tiny bell on a ribbon. Ring this when you can't take it anymore, he said. No explanation. Naturally, you tied it to your wrist, because that's what you do now. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is over there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's embark on tonight's journey together. The studio is much bigger than you expected. A converted Sea-Watch tower, maybe? Its bones are stone cold even in June. Wooden beams hold the roof together like a weary shrug. You hear seagulls, but they never get too close. Maybe they know better. Your room is up a creaky ladder. No doors in this place, just curtains. Everything smells faintly of cinnamon and mildew. You unpack a single bag and wonder if you've brought too much. A few sweaters, a notebook, one nice pen. Socks you'll definitely lose under the bed, even though you swore you wouldn't this time. The artist, who only introduces himself as Silas, moves like someone rehearsing invisibility. He's thin, tall, and his hair does that wild white halo thing you only see on wizards and men who live in towers. You suspect both apply. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, it's either poetic or deeply practical. This window opens only when the moon is new, he mutters one morning. You nod as if that makes perfect sense. And don't touch the brushes in the red jar. They bite. You learn quickly. The paintbrushes are sacred. The teapot is not. The studio has rules that aren't written down, and half of them change depending on whether Silas is in one of his moods. He calls them that with a sly grin, like you're supposed to laugh, even when he's clearly about to cry. You make toast in the mornings. The toaster burns everything, and Silas claims it's part of the ritual. Char is good for the soul, he says, smearing butter with something close to reverence. You eat your smoky bread on a windowsill, watching the ocean pretend to be endless. The view from here makes you think of every decision you've ever made. The good ones, the bad ones. Even the one time you wore corduroy in summer, an unforgivable act. At night, Silas paints, not casually. He paints like someone writing a letter that will never be mailed. Every stroke has intent. Every pause feels like a prayer. You hear the brush whispering across the canvas from your bed. Sometimes it's the only sound. No creaks, no sighs. Just paint moving over canvas like wind through grass. You try not to watch, but you always peek. Some nights you see flashes of color that shouldn't exist, shades of emotion more than hue. One is so rich and aching it reminds you of holding someone's hand at the airport and not knowing if it'll be the last time. Another makes your teeth hurt from how hopeful it is. Silas doesn't use reference photos. He says he paints what already exists. I'm just translating, he tells you. You know how dreams feel when you wake up? Like you missed a train to somewhere that might not exist? You nod. He smiles. That's the closest you've come to a conversation. In the mornings, he disappears. You find odd things in his absence. Leaves pressed in cookbooks, a spoon bent into the shape of a treble clef, and one time, a paper crane inside a teacup that had your name written on the wing. When you asked him about it, he blinked like he genuinely didn't remember. You keep a journal. Not because anything here makes sense, but because it doesn't. And that feels important. Here's an excerpt you might have written. June 4th, found a painting of a child with no eyes. Looked peaceful, though. The seagulls are quieter now. I think they're watching us. Silas cried when the toaster jammed. He said it reminded him of loss. I think I like him. There's an odd comfort in the chaos. The studio might be haunted, or it might just be incredibly lived in. There's something about the dust that feels intentional, like it's part of the art. Every room has a story, and none of them are written in words. One evening, Silas asks you to hold a canvas while he adjusts the light. It's heavier than it looks. When you ask him what it's for, he says, "The last one." Last what? He doesn't answer. He just smiles, and behind him, the sun sets with the kind of grandeur that should come with its own soundtrack. If sunsets could make speeches, this one would be like, "Thank you for your time. You've been a beautiful audience." You stay quiet. You learn that silence is the only currency that spends well here. That night, you wake up to something strange laughter. It's light, echoey, and completely unfamiliar. You creep down the ladder, peek around the studio, but Silas is nowhere. The front door's wide open, wind dancing through the paper scraps littering the floor like they're auditioning for Swan Lake. You see footprints in the dust, two sets. One old, one very small. You don't follow them. You're not sure you want to know. Instead, you close the door gently, lock it, and whisper, "It's okay," to no one in particular. Back upstairs, you find a tiny seashell on your pillow. You're not near a beach, and when you look out the window, the sea looks closer than it was yesterday. Word count, waiting for continue. The days begin to slide together, like brushstrokes blending into one another before they dry. You fall into Silas's rhythm, though it's less a routine and more a free-form jazz piece being played by a man who doesn't believe in clocks. There's no set time for waking or sleeping, just moments when your eyes refuse to stay open or shut. Morning, if it can be called that, always begins with the same scent, burnt toast and lemon oil. You come downstairs and find Silas already moving, slow and ghost-like, his hair wild and his eyes red, not from sleep but from whatever dreams claw at him before he wakes. Or maybe he never sleeps. You're honestly not sure anymore. The kettle wheezes like a grumpy old man with asthma. You've learned not to mind. The tea that results is unusual. The flavor shifts. One day it tastes like rain on pavement. Another like paint thinner stirred with a hint of clove. Silas claims the leaves listen to the mood in the room. You believe him because you've given up trying not to. He paints after breakfast. Always. He picks one canvas, stands in front of it for 20, 30, maybe 60 minutes, sometimes muttering to himself like a man assembling IKEA furniture without the manual. Then suddenly, whip! His hand moves, brush in motion, and he's off. And you? You watch. At first it feels invasive, like spying on someone dancing naked in their bedroom mirror. But eventually it feels necessary. Not for you, for him. Like your gaze anchors him, stops him from drifting out into whatever invisible tide tries to pull him from the studio each day. He paints with both hands, sometimes even holding brushes between his teeth. It's a show, honestly. He should charge tickets. One time, he paints for 7 hours straight, muttering, "The shadow has to know the light to be honest." But the light can lie and still be loved. You write that down, not because you understand it, but because it felt like something someone might someday need to read at a funeral. At noon, if you can still call it that, he stops and writes a letter. Always to her. You've never seen him send one. He folds them precisely, presses the seal with a golden stamp that has no emblem, and places them in an old wooden box with a lock that clicks shut like it's swearing to keep a secret. You once asked casually, "Who are the letters for?" Silas answered without looking up, "No one I can reach." Okay then. The letters are written with a pen made of bone, like actual bone, you asked. He smiled and said, "Whale rib or bishop's finger." Hard to remember. You don't ask again. After letter writing comes his walk, though it's really just a slow shuffle in circles around the garden, which is less of a garden and more of a collection of old pottery, cracked teacups, and a single stubborn cactus he named Gerald. Gerald is thriving. Silas talks to him more than he talks to you. "I used to grow flowers here," he tells Gerald once. "But beauty that dies too fast is just heartbreak in disguise." You wonder if that's how he sees you, like a flower. Something temporary. You kind of hope not. But also, maybe it's flattering. After the garden, he naps. Correction, he sits very still in his chair and pretends not to be painting in his head. You know this because once he started twitching his fingers in midair like he was drawing on invisible paper, and when you asked if he was dreaming, he whispered, "I'm working on the silence between brushstrokes." That's not a nap. That's a TED Talk for ghosts. You take care of things he forgets. Dishes, sorting his brushes. Organizing paint tubes by feeling since none of them are labeled. Sometimes you find strange ones, colors that don't exist in stores. rain memory, laughter after midnight, and one terrifying jar labeled Mother's Last Word. You don't open that one. One evening, you come across a half-finished piece shoved behind a dusty curtain. It's huge, taller than you, and covered in a gray sheet. For some reason, your fingers tingle as you reach to uncover it, like they're warning you not to. But curiosity, as always, is terrible at listening. You pull back the cloth. It's unfinished, yes, but stunning. A portrait. A woman with wild hair like summer wind and eyes that seem to be humming. That's the only word that fits. Her gaze makes your knees weak. It's not romantic. It's not scary. It's just so much. Your breath catches. Then you hear it. A soft creak. You whirl around, and Silas is standing in the doorway, hands covered in blue paint, face unreadable. Put it back, he says quietly. You do. You cover her like she's a body, like you've walked in on someone dressing and they've just locked eyes with you. You feel ashamed. I'm sorry, you say. Silas doesn't move. Then he walks up, takes your hand, and looks at the ink smudge on your wrist from where you'd been journaling. He sighs. I used to think finishing her would make things better, he murmurs. Now I'm not sure if anything should be finished at all. You don't know what to say, so you say nothing. That night, he asks you to stay up with him. He's never done that before. You sit on the cold floor, cross-legged, sipping bizarre tea. This one tastes like birthday cake and rust, and you listen as he hums to himself while mixing paint. The brush never touches canvas that night. He's just mixing. You know, he finally says, we don't make art to be understood. We make it to leave something behind, even if that something is confusion. You smile. Is that what this is? Confusion? No, he says softly. This is grief. Confusion is prettier. You laugh. The first real one since you got here. He grins. Progress. Waiting for continue. The town below the cliff is a short walk away, but it feels like another world. You first go down because Silas ran out of milk. Not for drinking, for painting. The calcium adds integrity, he said, which you didn't question, even though your soul did. So you lace up your boots, wrap yourself in your most mysterious scarf, because cliff towns always judge newcomers, and make the trek down the winding path that leads through rocks, fog, and a few too many suspiciously well-placed crows. The town is called Lothwell. Population, small. Vibe, oddly, paused, like it's waiting for a line that never comes. You pass a post office with no hours posted, a bakery that smells like happiness and regret, and a flower shop that only sells plants that look like they miss someone. At the general store, the woman at the counter, mid-50s, definitely sharp enough to file metal with her personality, smiles like she's expecting you. Oh, she says, folding her newspaper, you're staying with him. You blink. Him? Silas. She doesn't ask. She states. You nod. Well. She exhales, grabs the milk, and sets it on the counter like it might break if mishandled. Don't touch the easel by the window, and if he asks for crimson number 8, give him water instead, trust me. You don't ask how she knows these things. Small towns always know. You leave with more than you intended. Milk, some bread, a tin of anchovies. You're not sure why, and a vague feeling that you've just stepped into someone else's dream. As you walk back through town, people glance at you. Not rude, not friendly. More like curious ghosts remembering what it felt like to be flesh. You stop at the bakery on impulse. Inside, a man with flour in his beard nods once and slides a small paper bag across the counter without asking your order. Silas used to love these, he says, a little too softly. You open the bag. It's a single cookie, heart-shaped, burnt around the edges. I didn't ask for. You will. He smiles without joy, and that feels scarier than anger. Back up the cliff path, the wind fights you a little harder. It's as if the town's gossip followed you in a cloud of salt and suspicion. When you return to the studio, Silas is standing on the roof. You blink, you say nothing. He waves, you wave back. Then he points at the cookie in your hand and shouts, "Tell the baker I do forgive him, but I don't forget." You're not sure if he's joking. You decide not to ask. Later, over suspiciously lumpy tea, you try to mention your visit to town. He freezes. Still gray, huh? You nod. And the statue by the square? Which one? The one with no face. You remember it. A tall stone figure with outstretched arms and a completely smooth surface where the features should be. It looks like it's mid-sentence, trying to ask for something. It's still there, you say. Silas sips his tea and stares out the window. I carved that. You nearly spit out your tea. You're joking. He shrugs. I was young, reckless, full of ideas and soup. Thought if I made something big enough, she'd come back. Who? He doesn't answer, just mutters, I gave it no face because I couldn't remember her smile. The tea suddenly tastes like old pennies and heartbreak. Over the next week, you start going into town more. Not for errands, just to look, observe. Every time someone makes a comment. You're with Silas? How's the studio smell these days? Tell him the sea forgives. Has he finished it? Don't let him paint you. The last one sticks. You hear it from a child, maybe 10 years old, playing hopscotch near the post office. She says it with complete seriousness, her eyes too knowing for someone with chalk-stained fingers. Why not? You ask gently. Because if he paints you, you disappear. Then she hops away, singing a tune that shouldn't be familiar, but is. Back at the studio, you bring it up, casually. Like, hey, remember when kids used to say weird stuff about magic and death? Haha. Anyway, heard a fun one today. You expect him to laugh. He doesn't. Instead, he stops stirring his tea, sets down the spoon, and says, She said that too. Who? He looks up. His eyes aren't angry. They're afraid. And that makes your skin prickle. She said that exact thing the night before she vanished. You don't ask who she is. You've learned that names here are like fire. They provide warmth, but they burn when touched. That night, you dream of paint, thick, viscous paint pouring over your hands, your face, your heart. In the dream, you can't breathe because color is filling your mouth. But it's not scary. It's warm, like someone tucking you into a memory. You wake up with a smudge of blue behind your ear. No idea how it got there. You check the mirror. The same blue is on your collarbone. Silas walks past the bathroom doorway and says, without looking, That shade looks good on you. You don't even flinch anymore. The days keep shifting. The light in the studio changes in ways it shouldn't. You start to notice strange details, like how the shadows from the windows curve ever so slightly around Silas, like they're leaning in to listen. You find more unfinished works. Each one tells part of a story you're not sure you want to understand. A girl reaching for a bird that's flying away. A table set for two, with one chair overturned. A window with a rainstorm inside it. One piece makes your throat ache. It's just hands. One small, one large. Fingers almost touching. Not quite. You bring it up at dinner. Silas is chewing on burnt toast like it's a delicacy. Do you miss her? You ask softly. He doesn't pretend not to know who you mean. He sets down his plate, then says, simply, I'm still waiting for the moment I don't. The silence after that tastes like salt and ashes. Before bed, you find a new note slipped under your pillow. It's not in your handwriting. It just says, Don't open the canvas, turn to the wall. Not yet. She's not ready. You stare at it. The handwriting is elegant. You've seen it before, in the sealed letters. You go to Silas's room. He's asleep, finally. Next to him, the wooden box is open. Empty. Waiting for continue. You start checking the wooden box every morning now. You don't mean to. It's like brushing your teeth or wondering if your ex is happy. Unhelpful, compulsive, a little masochistic. Most mornings it's locked, sealed tight with that little gold clasp that makes no sound when it clicks shut. But sometimes, just sometimes, it's open, yawning like a secret trying to stretch. And when it's open, the letters are gone. Always. You ask Silas one morning, voice casual, Do you ever mail them? He doesn't even look up from the mug of paint water he's sipping like it's chamomile. No, he says, they mail themselves. You blink. He grins. Kidding. You're not so sure. The studio starts to shift again. Not physically, emotionally. There's something stirring in the air. Like the paint is watching you now. Like every unfinished canvas is waiting for something, for someone. Then one day, he finally invites you into that room. The one behind the green door with the brass knob that hums faintly when you touch it. You've walked by it a dozen times, each time feeling like your spine grew an extra nerve. He opens it without warning, just turns to you and says, Come. You follow, because what else is there to do? Inside, it's colder. The walls are stone. The floor is raw wood that creaks like it remembers pain. And the air, it smells like memories preserved in amber, like someone trapped a childhood there and forgot to let it age. There's only one object inside, an easel, facing the corner, canvas covered in black silk. Silas walks to it, slow and reverent. This is the last one, he says. You nod, throat tight. He touches the silk, doesn't remove it. Every night I dream about the final stroke. Just one. That's all it'll take. But I can't do it, not yet. Why? He sighs. Because I don't want to find out what happens next. You sit down on the lone stool in the room. It's colder than you expect, damp almost. Is she in there? You ask. He looks at the painting like it might answer. She's not in there, he says slowly. She is it. The words don't make sense. Not really, but you feel them land somewhere inside your ribs and curl up like a sleeping cat. Later, while he naps in his chair, again, you wander the house. You've explored most of it before, but today feels different. Like the shadows are in a better mood. Like the house wants to help. In the hallway closet, behind a box labeled Feathers Assorted, you find a photograph. It's old, sepia-toned, folded in half and tucked inside a book titled Echoes You Don't Return. The photo shows Silas, young, laughing, less haunted. His arm is around a woman, the same one from the unfinished portrait. Hair like chaos, eyes like a private joke you'll never be in on. On the back, in handwriting you now recognize, it says, "She said to finish it when the wind stops whispering." You step outside. The wind is dead silent. Of course it is. Back inside, you find Silas staring at a blank canvas. Not the one behind the silk. A new one. What do you see when you look at nothing, he asks. You think for a moment. Potential. He smiles. You'd make a terrible cynic. You sit beside him, both of you staring at the canvas like it's a movie about to begin. I dreamt of you before you came, he says suddenly. But you were always blurry, like a photo taken underwater. You turn to him, surprised. Me? He nods. You smell like the color I can't find, the one I need to finish the last stroke. It should sound like nonsense, but it doesn't. That night, the house hums. Literally. You lie in bed, covers up to your chin, and the walls emit a low, pleasant vibration, like a cat purring, like a cello string being stroked by a ghost. Then you hear it, the whisper. It comes from the canvas room. Not a word, not a sentence, just a sound. Breath caught in a throat, emotion shaped but not spoken. You get up, feet cold on the wooden floor. You open the green door. The canvas is uncovered. You freeze. Because it's changed. Just a little. A line here. A deeper shadow. A flicker of emotion across her face that wasn't there before. You blink. It's gone. You back away slowly and close the door. In the hallway, Silas stands waiting, arms crossed. She moves when no one looks, he says, not unkindly. How? She wants to be finished. But you're scared. Yes. Why? Because some endings are also beginnings, and not all beginnings are kind. You sleep with the light on that night, and when you wake, the cookie from the bakery, the one you never ate, is on your nightstand. But it's whole again. No burn marks. Fresh. Warm. You take a bite. It tastes like grief softened by time, and a whisper of something sweeter. Hope. Word count, waiting for continue. In the morning, the house smells like lemon and old wood and a little bit of rain, even though you're sure it hasn't rained. You find Silas already awake, standing at the window, holding a brush dipped in nothing. Not paint, just air. He flicks it gently toward the light, and you swear the sunshine changes hue for half a second. Did you do that? You ask, trying not to sound like a child spotting a magician. He shrugs. Sometimes the house finishes the brushstrokes for me. That shouldn't be comforting. And yet, you eat a quiet breakfast together. Burnt toast, strawberry jam, a single slice of apple neither of you finishes. Then he pushes a small square box toward you. Open it. Inside is a paintbrush, short-handled, the bristles worn, stained red at the tips. Not crimson, not blood, something gentler. A faded color that makes your heart ache, though you can't say why. She used that one, he says. You set it down carefully, like it might bite. She? He nods. She was a better painter than I ever was. Faster, freer, like she could see things that hadn't happened yet and just wanted to get them onto the canvas before the moment passed. You want to ask more, but something stops you. Maybe it's the way his hands tremble just slightly as he drinks his tea. Maybe it's the way the light keeps glinting off the window at the wrong angle. Like it's not sunlight, but memory. You take the brush outside later that day, just for air. The town looks different from up here. Smaller, like it could be held in a snow globe and shaken until the people inside got dizzy and remembered to live again. Down in the town square, something's happening. You see movement, a gathering. People standing around the statue with no face. You go down. You don't know why. But your feet carry you like they've made this trip before. When you arrive, the townspeople are quiet. Not mourning, not celebrating, just witnessing. The statue has changed. A single line now crosses its smooth stone face, just one, barely noticeable, a groove that could be the start of a mouth or the end of one. No one speaks, until a small child, maybe the same girl from before, tugs on your sleeve. You saw her, didn't you? You kneel. Who? The girl just points at your hand. You look down. The paintbrush. Still there. But now, there's color on the bristles. Fresh. A blue so deep it makes the sky look faded. She whispers, "That's her goodbye." You don't understand, but your eyes sting. Back at the studio, Silas is standing in the room with the silk-covered canvas. The cloth is on the floor now. He doesn't look at you when you enter. She spoke. Your mouth is dry. What did she say? She said, "Thank you." You don't move. He doesn't turn. "She never thanked me when she was here," he says quietly. "She didn't have to. We were so tangled up in each other, I thought the art would keep us both alive forever." You say nothing. He lifts the brush again, her brush, and approaches the canvas. You're afraid to blink, because what if this is the moment? But he stops, just before touching it. "I can't yet." "Why not?" He turns finally and looks at you. "Because it's not mine anymore." Your heart catches in your throat. Then whose is it? He steps aside. The easel stands tall. The painting glows faintly, like it's backlit by a dream. She wants you to finish it. You want to laugh. You want to say no. You want to back away and let the paint dry forever. But instead, you step forward, because something in your bones recognizes this. The ache of unfinished love, the echo of a goodbye that never got to bloom, the need to put just one more color into the world before the silence comes. You lift the brush. It's warm in your hand. He doesn't speak, just watches. You touch the canvas. Not a stroke, just a dot, a pinpoint, a tear maybe, and the entire painting shivers. The lights flicker, the wind rushes in, the house groans, and from the canvas comes a sound so soft you wonder if you're imagining it. Laughter, not mocking, not cruel, just delighted, like a soul relieved of its burden. Then silence. Silas steps forward and gasps, because now the painting is complete. You see her clearly now, smiling, reaching, but not at you, at him. Her hand stretches just past the edge of the frame, like it wants to touch his cheek one last time. He falls to his knees, not weeping, just breathing, for the first time in what feels like decades. "She forgave me," he whispers. You nod. Maybe she never blamed you. He turns to you, and for the first time, he looks younger, lighter, free. That night, you both sit under the stars, sharing a flask of something strong and tasting vaguely like rosemary and regrets. "Will she stay in the painting?" you ask. He smiles faintly. "No, she was never in the painting. She was always in the pause between brushstrokes." You both laugh, soft, tired, alive. He hands you the brush. You keep it. You do? You don't sleep much that night, but when you do, you dream of a hand in yours, fingers intertwined, not holding on, just resting, and that feels like peace. Waiting for continue. The next morning, the studio smells like lavender and ash. It's peaceful. Too peaceful, almost. Like the calm after a long storm, where even the wind has gone to sleep. You find Silas in the kitchen, hunched over a letter. It's addressed to you. The paper is thick, cream-colored, ink smudged just slightly where he must have paused too long, thinking. He doesn't say anything, just gestures for you to read. "You've done what I couldn't. Maybe what I shouldn't have tried. Thank you. I need to go away for a while. Not far. Just elsewhere. The house is yours now. The brushes too, even the crooked one with the chew marks. If people come looking for me, tell them I've gone painting the wind. And if the portrait ever moves again, don't be afraid. She only dances when she's happy." You fold the letter slowly. Silas stands, puts on his coat. It's the first time you've seen him wear anything but paint-streaked pajamas. He walks to the front door, hesitates, then turns. "Oh, one more thing," he says. "Don't forget to feed the painting." You blink. "Feed it?" He grins. "You'll figure it out." And with that, he's gone. Just like that. No dramatic exit, no swirling mist or vanishing footprints. Just the gentle click of the door behind him. You stand there for a long time. Then you look around. The house feels different now, like it's holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll do. So you walk through it, slowly, reverently, like you're walking through someone's dream. You find the room with the black silk canvas again. It's empty now. No painting, no easel. Just a faint echo on the floor where the legs once stood. You're not sure if it moved on its own or if Silas took it with him. Either way, the space feels relieved, as if the grief that once lived there has moved out. Later, you explore the drawers Silas always kept locked. Not out of secrecy, more like absent-minded protection, as if even his ghosts deserved privacy. Inside, you find sketchbooks, dozens, filled with quick lines, soft faces, and scrawled notes in the margins like, too much purple, she hated purple, try again, try better, or just try different. That look in her eyes, how did I ever deserve it? You flip through them slowly. It's a strange kind of intimacy, seeing someone's art before it becomes art. Like watching someone sleep. Beautiful, vulnerable, a little bit sacred. You decide to leave the sketchbooks alone. Instead, you go into the sunroom, the one with the cracked window pane and the vines that crept in like they owned the place. You set up your own easel, a new canvas, a blank one. You hold her brush in your hand, the one with the red tip bristles. You stare at the canvas, and then you ask the room softly, "What now?" The room answers with a creak. The light shifts, and in the dust dancing through the sunbeam, you see it, a shape, a woman, just for a second. She smiles at you and disappears. You breathe in deeply, dip the brush in paint, and begin. The first stroke is shaky, the second is smoother, the third feels like a memory returning home. You paint all day, lose track of time, forget to eat. You only stop when your hand cramps and the brush slips, landing in your lap and leaving a smudge on your jeans that'll never come out. You laugh. Because Silas was right, some art lives in the mistake. At night, you sit by the fireplace, not because it's cold, but because it crackles like company. You bring the painting with you. It's not finished, nowhere near, but the face is beginning to take shape. Not hers, someone else, someone you don't know yet. But you will. Tomorrow, you fall asleep in the armchair, dreamless. The kind of sleep that only happens when something you didn't know you were carrying has finally left your shoulders. In the morning, the painting is gone, not stolen, not vanished, just moved. It's now hanging in the hallway, and next to it, the unfinished portrait of her, the one Silas left behind. You run your fingers along the frame. She winks at you, just once. It might have been the light. You walk into the kitchen. There's a letter on the counter. Not from Silas, not in his handwriting. It says, "Thank you for letting him let go. He needed you more than he knew. Keep painting. The house remembers." You sit down, make coffee, bad coffee, burnt and bitter and too strong, but it's yours now. You sit by the window, watch the wind return. You can hear it whispering again. Not mournful, not lost, but playful, like it's carrying a secret you'll never quite understand. And that's okay, because not all endings make sense. Some are just soft landings, quiet doors closing, brushes drying, and the silence afterward? That's the real masterpiece. Waiting for continue. The mail starts arriving again. It begins with a single postcard, blank, except for the words, "Do the strawberries still bloom by the fence?" in looping ink. No return address, no signature, just a question, like someone testing the temperature of an old friendship. You walk to the side garden Silas barely tended. And yes, somehow, despite the neglect, despite the chaos, there are strawberries. Tiny ones, heart-shaped, ripe. You pick one. It tastes like sunlight filtered through an attic window, and it makes you cry. You don't know why. Maybe because someone remembered. Maybe because something soft has survived. After that, the letters keep coming. Always handwritten. Always strange. Some are full of riddles. If a color forgets its name, can it still be painted? Others are half poems, signed only with a looping S, but one, folded like origami and slipped beneath the door at dawn, stands out. She dances in my dreams again, not a ghost, just present. And I think the sky has started listening to her. I saw a cloud in the shape of her laugh yesterday. I didn't paint it. I just looked. Thank you. You don't reply. There's no return address anyway, but you do walk through the house more often now, whispering updates to the walls like old friends. "She'd like the color I used today," you say. The house settles in response. The floors don't creak as much anymore. The mirrors stop warping your reflection. Even the old grandfather clock, which had stopped ticking for years, begins to count time again, only when you're painting. You don't tell anyone about that. Some magic prefers privacy. Then one day, the doorbell rings. A small woman in a red raincoat stands on the porch, even though there's not a cloud in the sky. She holds a canvas, face down. You open the door. She doesn't ask permission, just steps inside and sets the painting gently on the hallway floor. "It's for you," she says. You blink. "Who sent it?" She shrugs. He just said you'd understand. Before you can say more, she's already walking away. You turn over the canvas. It's a self portrait. Silas. Younger. Eyes closed, smiling like someone who's made peace with every version of himself. And behind him, a woman's hand on his shoulder. You can't see her face, just the outline of her smile. But you know it's her. You hang it in the sunroom, next to your own unfinished work. The room feels warmer now, like it's exhaled. A week later, people begin showing up. Not a crowd, not yet. Just one or two at a time. Artists, writers, photographers with bandaged thumbs. They don't say how they found the house. Some say dreams. Some say stories. One claims a bird whispered directions into her soup. You don't question it. You just let them in. And in return, they paint, they sketch, they hum lullabies to cracked walls. They fix the broken window pane without being asked. They leave behind slippers that somehow fit you perfectly. And one morning, you find a freshly baked croissant on the windowsill, still warm, with a note that simply says, "Don't ask, just enjoy." So you do. The house begins to glow with new life. Not loud, not fast, but steady, gentle, like breath returning after a long-held sigh. The paintings in the hall multiply. Some are brilliant, some are messy. One is just a single blue dot in the middle of white. You love that one best because it reminds you of the moment you began. Sometimes you think you hear Silas in the walls, not trapped, just visiting, like a memory with really good timing. You ask the house if it misses him. A door opens softly in reply and closes again. You take that as a yes. At night, you still talk to the painting, the one of her. You call her by the name you gave her in your mind. Alara. It feels right, like brushing a canvas with the perfect shade of shadow. She never speaks, but sometimes you catch her smiling, a little more than before. You tell her about your day, what you painted, what the house whispered, how the wind has stopped trying to escape, and every so often when you turn away and look back quickly, her eyes follow, just slightly, like she's keeping watch. Not haunting, just staying close. You start painting in the moonlight. Something about the glow feels like permission. One night, as you're halfway through a piece, a child reaching for a sky that looks like melted lavender, you feel a breeze. No windows are open. You don't move. You wait. And then, just behind you, a whisper, "She would have loved that." You turn, but no one's there. Only the scent of rosemary and old books, and a single strawberry, freshly picked, sitting on your windowsill. You smile. You don't ask questions anymore. You just keep painting. Because now, this place is a story. And you're the one finishing the last sentence, one careful brushstroke at a time, waiting for continue. The visitors come more frequently now. Some stay for an hour, some stay for weeks. No one knocks anymore. They just seem to know when it's okay to walk in, and you never ask how they find you. You just offer them tea, strange blends you've never bought, chamomile with vanilla and something a little spicy, like hope. There's a new tradition in the house. Each visitor must leave a painting, even if they've never held a brush in their life. You don't need talent. You tell them. Just memory. And they paint. Terrible little stick figures, abstract blobs. Once, someone painted only a name, just a name, over and over again until the canvas was soaked in it. It makes you cry, but you hang it anyway. The house accepts every offering, even the one that's just glitter glued to a potato. Especially that one. You suspect Silas would have loved the glitter potato most. One night, you dream of him. He's not old, not young. He's exactly how you remember him, not as he was, but as he felt. He's standing in the garden, not painting, just watching the wind comb through the lavender. You walk up beside him, say nothing. He smiles, says, "You kept the house warm." You wake up before you can answer. But when you get out of bed, there are footprints in the soil outside, barefoot, heading toward the old tree and vanishing into nothing. You don't follow. You don't need to. That morning, you find a new note tucked into your paint box. Not every masterpiece ends with applause. Some just need to be seen by the right eyes once. You're the right eyes. You take a deep breath. The house smells like turpentine and baking bread. Someone has fixed the loose stair. Someone else replaced the dusty chandelier with a wind chime made of spoons. The crooked hallway is now filled with paintings of doorways, doorways that don't exist in the house, or anywhere you recognize. But when you pass them, you feel something tug at you, like the invitation to walk through is always open. You don't, not yet. but you do touch the frame of the one that looks like a hallway lit with purple lanterns and music notes dripping from the ceiling like icicles. The wood is warm. A hum vibrates gently in your fingertips. You whisper, "Not today," and the painting exhales. The walls of the house seem closer now, like they've been listening all along and finally want to respond. The mirror in the hallway no longer reflects your face. It shows you painting, even when you're not. In one reflection, you're older. In another, younger. In a third, you're laughing, hands covered in green paint and glitter, like someone's just pranked you with a craft explosion. You leave that mirror uncovered now, because it's telling the truth in its own weird way. One afternoon, a woman with silver hair and a velvet coat arrives. She walks straight to Alara's portrait. Stops, gasps. You walk in, ready to offer her a seat or a story or a snack that's somehow already been made. But she just touches the frame and says, "She used to sing to my baby sister." You freeze. Your breath catches. You don't know what to say, so you don't say anything. The woman doesn't cry. She smiles. "I thought we made her up," she whispers. "But she was real, wasn't she?" You nod slowly. And in that moment, 1,000 invisible threads restitch themselves through time. The woman leaves a small music box behind. It plays a tune you've never heard, but Alara's eyes sparkle just a little brighter after that. Another visitor leaves behind a folded napkin with the words, "I never painted again, but I always dreamed in color. Thank you for reminding me." You keep it in your pocket. On rainy days, you unfold it and let it dry your doubts. The house begins to creak in new places, joyful places, like it's growing, changing. You swear one hallway got longer. You swear another shrunk. You don't question it. Instead, you hang a painting in every stretch of wall that shifts, like you're helping it find its final shape. One day, someone paints a door on a closet wall. The next day, the door is real. You open it and find nothing but warm air and a single floating feather. You close it gently. You leave the feather on the mantel. Eventually, you repaint Alara's portrait. Not over it, around it. You extend her background, add stars, paint an entire universe behind her smile. It takes weeks, but you never tire, because it feels like coming home, brushstroke by brushstroke. When you finally stop, she looks complete, still powerful, but not sad anymore. You realize you haven't cried in a while, not because the ache is gone, but because it's finally learned how to dance. Waiting for continue. The seasons begin to shift outside the old house. Leaves turn golden and then fall in slow, swirling dances, carpeting the garden like confetti after a silent celebration. You notice the chill creeping into the air and pull your sweater tighter, but inside, the house feels warmer than ever. Somehow, the walls have soaked up every story, every laugh, every brushstroke. The house hums with life. One evening, while painting in the sunroom, you notice a flicker in the corner of your eye. A shadow? No, something softer. A silhouette, delicate as mist. You don't startle. You wait. The figure steps forward, gentle as a sigh. Alara. Not the painted version, but something more, less. She smiles at you, eyes full of secrets and sunsets. "Thank you," she says, voice like wind through chimes. You blink. She's gone. But the air still shimmers. You realize the painting wasn't just alive. She was alive, in a way you never expected. From then on, Alara visits you often. Not always visible, but always present. Sometimes she hums while you paint. Sometimes she moves objects like a mischievous breeze. One night, you find a tiny origami bird on your windowsill. Made of pages torn from an old sketchbook. You pick it up and it flutters, just a bit. You smile. The house is full of magic and stories. You decide it's time to share them. You invite the visitors to gather one evening. The sun dips low, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. The garden fills with chairs. People settle in, some hesitant, others eager. You begin to tell them about Silas, about Alara, about the house that listens, about the painting that cried, and the brushstrokes that healed. You tell them about the strawberries that taste like sunlight. You tell them about the music box and the dancing shadows. You tell them about the whispers behind closed doors. They listen. Some laugh, some wipe tears. One man says it feels like magic, not just a story. You nod, because it is. Later, someone asks you, "Do you ever miss him?" Silas. You pause. The night hums around you. You say softly, "Every day." But I think he's still here, in every color, in every shadow, in every breath of wind. They smile. The garden darkens. The stars blink awake. You look up, and for the first time, you see a shooting star streak across the sky. You make a wish, not for yourself, for the story, for the art, for the house that never really lets go. The next morning, you find a new painting hanging in the hallway. It's a simple portrait. A man with gentle eyes, holding a brush, smiling. You recognize him, Silas, and beside him, a note. Keep the story alive. You tuck it into your pocket. The house creaks a little louder that day, but it's a good creak, like an old friend stretching after a nap. You sit down at your easel, pick up the crooked brush with the red-tipped bristles, and begin to paint. Not just to finish a portrait, but to write a new chapter. For everyone who walks through this door, for everyone who needs to believe in magic, for everyone who's ever lost a stroke only to find it again. The house listens, the painting waits, and you paint. Waiting for continue. The house has become a sanctuary, not just for you, but for everyone who passes through its weathered doors. You wake each morning with the sunlight weaving golden threads through the curtains, the scent of rain lingering on the wooden floorboards. It's a rhythm now, a gentle pulse of color and memory and whispered stories. One afternoon, a young boy with paint-stained fingers wanders in. He looks around wide-eyed, clutching a broken crayon like a treasured relic. You kneel beside him. Want to help me paint the walls? You ask. He nods eagerly. Together, you begin. He draws swirls, stars, and funny faces. You add shadows and light, and the house seems to sigh in relief. A little girl arrives next. She hums a melody you don't know but feel in your bones. She twirls through the rooms, scattering laughter like confetti. The house absorbs it all, like it's been waiting for this moment. You realize you're not just the caretaker, you're the storyteller, the keeper of memories, the artist who breathes life into paint and wood. The final canvas is in your studio. It's blank, waiting. You pick up your brush, dip it in the richest blue you have, and begin. You paint the story you've lived, the story Silas started, the story Alara whispered, the story the house held close. Each stroke feels like a heartbeat. The hours pass unnoticed. When you step back, the canvas glows. Not with paint, but with something else. Hope, love, the promise that no story truly ends. Later that night, the house is quiet. The stars outside blink slowly. You feel a presence beside you. Alara's smile. Warm, soft. You whisper, "Thank you." She nods, and as you close your eyes, you know this is only the beginning. The last stroke isn't an end. It's an invitation to keep dreaming, to keep creating, to keep loving. Because some stories are meant to be lived over and over. Like a lullaby sung beneath the stars. You drift into sleep. The house watches over you, silent, protective, full of stories waiting to be told. The air softens around you now, like a gentle sigh. The colors fade into a warm twilight glow, painting the edges of your mind with calm. Every breath you take feels lighter, softer, like a whisper on the breeze. Remember, the last stroke is never really the last. It lingers in the spaces between dreams, in the hush of the night, in the quiet beat of your heart. Now, as your eyelids grow heavy and the world slows, know you're safe here, surrounded by stories that cradle you like a gentle hand. Let the house's warmth wrap around you. Let the memories settle softly. Breathe deep and fall into a deep, peaceful sleep. Good night. End of script. Good night.